Hey, I'm Angie, and welcome to my podcast, Chaotic Harmony. If I ever had to choose one thing that makes me, hands down, it would have to be my mouth. My mouth has caused more problems in my life than literally anything else. I know it, I own it, and at times it is literally the death of me. But do I ever stop myself before I speak? Just long enough to make sure I'm not going to be making an ass of myself? Hell no. Hell to the no. But trust me, I really should. And I today just wanted to give you a few examples of that. So here we go. Back in 2018, my husband's old farmhouse in the middle of the country, we took a gamble and decided to move our children from the duplex that they knew as their home for like the last 8 years to a much smaller, older home with a much bigger yard. You know, looking back at this, yeah, that wasn't the brightest idea in the world. I mean, moving 8 kids to a place that they knew as their home with bigger rooms to a much, much smaller, more in their face type of crap. It was not the brightest idea because they felt like they were on top of each other like little sardines and caused more problems. So yeah, it wasn't the brightest idea in the world. But hear me out. I'm not the brightest crayon in the box either. So it is what it is. Anyways, as I was saying, the house was much older and needed a little pick-me-up. Nothing a little elbow grease and paint couldn't fix, if you know what I mean. At least, that's what I told myself. My husband and I we were about a week into the project of cleaning and painting when out of nowhere, Wisconsin decided to do what it does best. Our area got hit with a big snowstorm. The kind of snowstorm that came with wind, creating snow drifts everywhere, making it next to impossible to drive. Notice how I said next to impossible. I wasn't going to let that little snow stop us. So I begged my husband to drive us to the house. I just wanted to see if there was a possibility of getting in there. I was clinging on to that hope. And I do tend to do that way too much. I convinced him enough to drive us there, all right? So the drive there was slow, somewhat chaotic, but doable. And I only say that because I wasn't driving, so it was very doable, especially if you're a Wisconsin driver. Most of us Wisconsin drivers know how to handle the snow. Well, I shouldn't say most. I mean some. They all tend to think they know until they don't know. Anyway. We ended up parking our vehicle at the end of the driveway. The only part of the driveway that didn't have a huge snowdrift blocking it. My husband, I honestly cannot believe I'm going to say this here, but the more sensible one of us looked at our current situation and made a recommendation. A recommendation that didn't involve us getting inside the house anytime soon. He thought the best thing we could do was drive back to our duplex, maybe pack a little more, and wait for a plow to clear a pathway to the house. It was not what I wanted to hear. I wanted him to move mountains. Well, in this case, move those snowdrifts. As much as I pleaded with my husband, his decision did seem to be pretty final at that point. It really did. I started bickering back and forth with him, like I usually do. And honestly, who did really make him the boss? You know, that's what I was trying to get at. Like, who are you to tell me what to do? I was trying like hell to change his mind. Trying. I want to say about 5 minutes into the exchange, my hubby all of a sudden gave me hope. And that's all I needed, guys. I just needed that little sliver of hope. And he told me if I could walk all the way to the house and make him a path Then, and only then, would he follow me and get into the house. And then we could do our stuff. Challenge accepted. Of course I'm going to do that. Duh. That's what we're here for, right? I wanted to get shit done. And this was the only way that I could do it that day. He told me so. I guess the boss said that. I was going to show him that I could do it. Like, I'm going to show him who he's talking to, right? And that, my friends, is when I began talking shit. Letting my mouth run freely. And that is very dangerous. I was hyping myself up. Like, I'm going to show you type shit. Now, before I go any further, let me make sure that I painted the picture correctly for you, okay? Our driveway, which was in the shape of a horseshoe, was covered in a huge, I wouldn't even say blanket. It was like a mountain of snow. The entire area looked like a huge whiteout. There were snow drifts, and those drifts ranged from a foot to several, and I mean several feet high. Oh, and let me add in the fact that I was a heavy girl then. I was a big girl. Nothing wrong with that. Just saying. Gotta paint the picture, okay? I could barely walk a quarter, maybe even an eighth of a mile, like anywhere, without losing my breath, let alone jump in this mountains of snow. But that didn't matter. My mind was set. And then I talked more crap. I opened the vehicle door with some watch this shit attitude. I was going to show my husband that nothing was going to stop me. And he was going to regret what he said. He was going to. And I was going to make damn sure of it. When I opened that vehicle door, I had to actually push snow out of the way. And then I saw the intimidating amount of snow just right under my feet. Now, I'm not going to lie here. It set me back for a second. I wanted to turn around and say, just kidding, and slide my big ass back into the vehicle. But there's a problem. I was not going to allow that. My pride, I had way too much pride, and it was not going to allow that to happen. I somehow managed to get myself out of our vehicle, and I slammed the door behind me like really hard, like, fuck you, watch this. And that was it. There was no going back. And I couldn't let my husband see that I was struggling, even though we all know he was waiting. He was waiting for me to fail. I took one step forward and almost lost my balance. Immediately, that was my oh shit moment. That snow was deeper than it looked, and it already looked pretty bad. In my mind, it looked so much easier than it actually was, but again, I wasn't quitting. I talked way too much shit at this point to give up. I took another step forward and heard a little chatter come from inside the vehicle. I looked back and saw my husband smiling at me. Right away, my mind instantly went to, is this fucker mocking me right now? Is he fucking mocking me? Like, who the hell does he think he is? And then I got angry. And when I get angry, I don't think straight. I act before I think. So watch this, motherfucker. And I took a couple more big steps to show him, and instantly regretted everything I ever knew about my life. My watch this shit attitude didn't get me anywhere, guys. I was stuck in a snowdrift face forward. I was humiliated. I needed help getting the hell out of there. The one person that could help me had already jumped out of the vehicle, laughing his ass off as he's prancing in the snow like a fucking deer, and was already taking pictures of me looking like a beached whale. I just wanted to get back into the vehicle and go home. Fuck the painting, fuck the cleaning, fuck it all. But my husband? Yeah, he wasn't done. And And I don't blame him right now anyway. Then I did. The man that barely took any pictures at all had miraculously turned into a freaking professional photographer at my expense. At one point in time, I wasn't sure he even knew his phone had a camera on it. So imagine my surprise when I looked up at him in a very vulnerable position, freezing my ass off, stuck in a pile of snow. I couldn't move my feet, desperately needing his help. And all he is doing is positioning himself just right to get the perfect photo of me. He was saying stuff like, "Ooh, watch this. Look what I can do." Basically quoting me on everything I had said leading up to this point. It took some time, but after my husband took a good amount of pictures while mocking me, he did manage to put away his "I told you so" card and help me get back on my feet. Now that some time has passed, I can confidently say I don't blame him. I can't. I was the idiot that hyped myself up in front of him only to fail miserably. I would have done the same thing if roles were reversed. Sorry. Wow. I have attempted to stay away from trying to march through a ton of snow since then. Kinda. I guess that's progress, right? I guess. All I know is I'm just waiting for my husband to fall so I can take a bunch of pictures of him to show him how it felt. Oh, man. Because I ran my mouth without thinking, there are, unfortunately, 2 girls in the family that I know of that had their dreams crushed by me. Yeah. My first victim was my niece Aaliyah. It was Easter weekend, and she had come to our house to spend the weekend with our family. During the drop-off, my sister-in-law had given me an Easter basket filled with goodies to hide at our house. I may have imagined it. I really think I imagined it, but at the time, I got the assumption that Aaliyah didn't believe in the Easter Bunny. The way that her mom was talking to me. I had a couple of kids that also didn't believe as well, so it really wasn't a big deal. All of the children were so excited to have Leah stay over. And after you have 8 children, what's one more, right? Which is why I got fixed. That kind of thinking right there would have made me a mother of 15 for all I know. Okay. Back to my story. I had a closet full of Easter basket stuff that was nowhere near ready. And our house was full of excited children. I just kept on reminding myself that their bedtime was soon. Every holiday, it kind of seemed like the kids were more hyped up and more energized and just ready to get to that holiday. And it was all that energy was just a lot to have one child, but multiply it by 8 and now 9 because of my niece. It was a lot. So yeah, I just kept going, okay, guys, I just can't wait till you go to bed. That was the only way I could survive. Parenting, that's the only way I could survive parenting at all at that time because they were all so young. Just kept reminding myself, bedtime is soon. In just a few hours, they go to bed. I somehow managed to lock myself into the bedroom for a bit throughout the day, and I got the Easter basket stuff all ready. All I had to do was hide them, so good to go. We lived in a 3-bedroom duplex, so finding a good spot, good hiding spot for anything is next to impossible, let alone finding 9 large Easter baskets. I like to have a plan for just about everything. So I decided to give a clue to the few older kids that did know the truth about the Easter Bunny. Now, in my mind, that would give me more room to work with, for the other innocent kiddos, I guess I should say. I started off with my daughter, Abigail. I told her that our Easter basket was going to be outside. Obviously, it was still going to be hidden, but it just wasn't going to be inside like the rest of the younger ones. She didn't mind the hunt, and she was excited. And she was even more excited that it was outside. And then I went to my son, Maxwell, and did the same thing. Again, he had no problem with that, and he was actually super excited. Then I took Aaliyah off to the side. She was the only child for a long time, so spending the night at our place could be a lot to handle. Overall, she seemed to love coming over. So we talked a little bit about that, and then I kind of rolled it into, our house doesn't have a lot of hiding spots, so I just wanted to give you a little clue here. And kind of, I gave her a clue, but I didn't tell her exactly where it was. I also told her that her mom loaded it up with like all kinds of goodies, and, she really should be excited. I remember her smiling up at me as my mouth continued on, like, oh, your mom is so cool, you're so full, la, da, da. And once I finished, Aaliyah blurted out, "What? The Easter Bunny isn't real?" As her face turned into pure panic. And that is when I realized I broke a little girl's heart. I will forever be the one that took her childhood away. I'd like to add in here that she did forgive me. Like, I know that doesn't make it any better, but she did forgive me. Or at least I think she did. I'm really not sure. I guess I'll have to ask her next time I see her. And now to my next victim, my bonus baby, Peyton. I'd like to say that in my defense, she was much older than my first victim, all right? It was around Christmas time. This time of year was always tricky in our household. For me, anyways. My husband didn't have to do the shopping or organizing. All he had to do was help me wrap all of the gifts, which actually was quite a lot because we always had 5 gifts per child. So we were already looking at, that was 40 freaking presents we had to wrap. All right. I do need to stop here for a second and correct myself. My husband did have to go to work and produce a paycheck in order to purchase said gifts. Anyway, finding time to get any Christmas shopping done was extremely, extremely tricky. On this particular day, the day I claimed my second victim, I was driving home from my bonus baby's doctor appointment. It was just the 2 of us. The other kids were still in school, and it would be a few hours before they even came home. The timing was perfect. Best part, Peyton could actually help me pick out a few things for her sisters. I knew she knew what their likes were, and I thought I did too. But as we pulled into the parking lot, I looked over at Peyton and I told her the plan. We were going to go in, pick out a few Santa gifts, and get home before the other kids came home. And if there was enough time, we could even wrap them together. Imagine my surprise when Peyton's response was a little off. She looked at me all confused, like, what? Wait, Santa gifts? Santa's not real? And I laughed. I laughed at her because I thought she was joking around. I mean, the girl was 13. How didn't she know? And then the guilt set in. Kinda. I say kinda. I didn't want to be the one to ruin her Christmas spirit, but at the same time, I didn't want her getting picked on for still believing. I ended up explaining it all to her and apologized over and over again for ruining it for her. But there is one thing that puzzles me after all these years, is how she still actually believed. I don't know about your household, but in ours, when one kid found out, it was like game over for the rest because they were just, I had to tell this one and this one and this one and this kid on the bus and this one on the bus. Nothing was a surprise and a secret. So yeah, I was a little weirded out by that, but whatever. I still feel bad, kinda. Oh my God. I love your mom. She is so cool. I wish she was my mom. Now, I don't want to brag or flex, as the kids say these days, but I have heard all of those statements and more, all said by my kids' friends. I just laugh and say something like, well, duh, of course you want someone like me. I might even give a little shoulder shrug, nothing too smug. I just want to make sure they knew I appreciated it. Like, yeah, I know. Anytime this was ever said, my kids would give a response. It would be something close to, oh, No, you don't. With attitude. And in my opinion, with way too much attitude, if I may say so myself. And I laugh at that as well. How dare you say such a thing? I did the best I could with what I had. I made sure they had food on the table, clothes on their backs, and whatever else they may need. I even allowed them to have a voice. Some, in somewhat, in some things. That is something I never had as myself growing up. So again, how dare they say those things? But at the same time, my parenting methods, mostly my mouth, may have caused them some embarrassment, possibly some anxiety along with that, whatever. I'm not perfect. At one point in time, I had 2 boys participating in youth football. No matter how much it took out of me, both physically and mentally, I was going to do my best to get them to and from practices and games. I made sure all of the other kids were present for the games. We were going to be the best cheerleaders ever. I had made it my mission to make this a fun family thing. My boys did great that year. Maxwell had some great tackles, and Garrett, he even caught an interception. Yes, he did run the opposite way, but still, he caught an interception. Overall, I couldn't be more thankful and proud of them. With that being said, my mouth almost screwed up the entire football experience. Both boys needed to get a sports physical done before they could even step foot on the field. I'm what some people call a procrastinator. By the time I finally got an appointment for the boys, it was too late to see our primary doctor. The only doctor available was a female. I knew what they all had to get done at the physical. My boys did not. I decided to wait till the day of their physical to tell them that they were going to see a female. And when that day came, I had decided to entertain myself as well. And if I did it correctly, they would be just as entertained as I was. While they were getting their shoes on and making their way to the vehicle, I had let the boys know that they had to turn their heads and cough. Both boys said, okay, in a, why is mom telling this? I don't know, who cares? In that kind of way. So once I got onto the highway, I decided to kick it up a notch. Like maybe they didn't understand why I said that. So I told them they would have to turn their heads and cough while she grabbed their balls. I really should have waited until I wasn't driving because their response was worth noting. They both turned ghost white. They both said, "Wait, she?" And I could not stop laughing. I got them. If you ask my boys, my laugh sounded like a crazy lady. But to me, it was more like a, this is amazing. The boys talked amongst each other while I was making our way to the destination. Believe it or not, when we got there, they didn't want to go in. They were like, screw football. I don't know how I managed to keep a straight face as I told them that, come on, guys, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Just don't get a boner. Like, you got this. Just don't do that. Don't get an erection. The boys wanted to call their father from the parking lot. He ended up telling the boys that they'd be fine. And he even added, hopefully she isn't ugly. Or hopefully she is ugly. My bad. Hopefully she's ugly. As I sit here with you today, I can confidently tell you that she was beautiful, gorgeous. Before the boys went into their physical, I told her what was said because they were acting a little awkward. I don't know why. And she laughed hard. I'd like to note here that she thanked me for cluing them into the physical and all that it entailed because some others don't. So I ask you, is what I really did bad? I'd say telling my boys that she needs to check their balls for their possible ear infection would be even worse. And yeah, I did that. Max had an ear infection, and I said, she's going to have to check your balls. What? For an ear infection? You bet. She's going to have to. Don't get your panties in a bunch. He was a teen and already had 2 sports physicals under his belt. I was just trying to lighten up the mood. Or, well, I guess now that I think of it, I was probably getting more of a laugh out of them, out of him than that. No, I probably got more of a laugh out of that than him. That's what I'm trying to say. Either way, I don't think he's too traumatized. He tells me the story with a smile on his face. My mouth didn't fuck it up. Too much for him anyway. At least that's what I tell myself. I am the type of person that loves a good plan. Honey, I want to know everything. The who, the what, when, where, why, and how. And as soon as I know all of that, I allow myself to get excited. Maybe a little too excited at times. But hear me out. We don't do much. So whenever we do anything, it's an adventure. At least that's what I tell myself anyways. Excited Angie loves to hype things up. Oh, we can do this, we can do that. My husband is a complete opposite. He doesn't want plans. He doesn't want anything. I think he's kind of like a Debbie Downer, I guess. In fact, he doesn't like even hearing about my excitement either. He's kind of a Grinch. I guess this is where they say opposites attract comes into play. Anyways, back in the day, late 2009, when Tony and I were still dating, his cousin Jason got into a major accident. He was rehabbing at a veterans hospital in Minnesota. Tony had asked me if I wanted to go with him to visit Jason. Is that even a question? Yes, I do. You do not have to ask me twice. And just like that, my mouth started flapping. Oh my God, we're going to be staying at a hotel? Just you and me? I swear to you, for some weird reason, I can still feel the excitement that I was carrying in that moment. Of course, I wasn't excited that Jason was injured as bad as he was, but I was excited that we were going to a place we both didn't know and we were staying at a hotel. And I don't know about you, but hotels make me horny. Not to mention the fact that at that time in our relationship, everything still felt new. I couldn't get enough of Tony. He is the only man that has ever made me feel sexy and beautiful and wanted and needed. You get the point. I wanted to feel that way all the time. What girl doesn't? Am I right? I wanted him as much as I could possibly get each and every single day. Still kind of do. That hotel stay was on my mind literally 24/7. And you bet your ass I made sure he knew what I was thinking. I was telling Tony what I was going to do over here. We were going to do this. We were going to do that over here and over there. We were going to be sore at the end of our stay. I didn't stop fantasizing about it at all. Side note, I do have bipolar disorder, so I do get hypersexual at times. Just felt like that was needed here because I'm sounding kind of crazy. Either way, back to what I was saying. Then we got to the hotel and everything I had imagined went up in smoke. Tony could not perform. I didn't understand. Well, part of me did. We were there for a sad reason, but the rest of me was like, what the fuck? Does this man not like me anymore? Am I gross to him? What is going on? The answer to all my ridiculous questions was no. The truth is, I ran my mouth so much that he started worrying. Was he going to be able to perform at all? Was he going to be able to do it as many times as she said? And the more I talked about it, the worse he felt about it. He ended up getting so much anxiety about it that his dick did not work. In other words, my mouth caused limp dick. Poor guy. Well, more like poor me. The worst part is, I know what my mouth is capable of, and yet it still hasn't stopped me. I'm still over here to this day, flapping my jaw freely, handing out advice that is never asked for, causing limp dick. I really need to get my shit figured out. And with that being said, that is all I have for today, my dear. Thank you for tuning in to my podcast. I appreciate every single one of you. If you haven't already, go and check out my Facebook page, Chaotic Harmony, and give her a like. If you would like to support my podcast, you can either scan the QR code on my Facebook page or click the support the show link under this episode. And last but not least, go out there today and embrace the weird and make normal feel boring. Bye.